Hello all, Dina Wilkie here. I will be presenting on the Husky Superior Refinery incident. This occurred on April 26th back in 2018 in Superior, Wisconsin. There was an explosion and a resultant fire. Some background on the facility: Wisconsin's only oil refinery, built in 1950. It is located near Lake Superior. It was owned at the time by Husky Energy of Calgary, Canada, and employed about 200 individuals year-round. It has an approximate 50,000 barrel per day processing capacity, with which they process heavy and light crude oil from Canada and North Dakota to produce gasoline, diesel, and asphalt. Of particular pertinence, the facility's fluid catalytic cracking, or FCC unit. All new to me, so doing my best to explain. It uses heat and a sand-like catalyst to break the crude oil hydrocarbons apart into smaller molecules, with which they produce gasoline and other products. I've linked here a clip from a longer but awesome animation of the entire incident. My clip shows in particular the functionality of a mechanism known as the slide valve, which was involved in the incident. The incident occurred during contracted workers' shutdown of the unit. This is every 5 years, a 5-week maintenance and repair period known as a turnaround. An explosion happened, shook buildings up to a mile away, propelled large metal fragments up to 1,200 feet away. This resulted in debris punctured a hot asphalt tank, and that spilled 17,000 barrels out into the facility. Within a couple hours, that had caught fire and released a lot of flammable hydrocarbon vapor. There were 800 to 900 people on site at the time, and this was due to their large number of contract workers. Some additional photos. OSHA and the CSB investigated this incident. This investigation report was my main resource: 196 pages, 50 itemized findings, the overarching safety issues you can see cited here. It was not published until over 4 years after the incident occurred. The CSB identified the cause of explosion as a severely eroded slide valve. This had allowed air to leak backward into downstream equipment containing hydrocarbons, which created a flammable mixture, which eventually ignited, unfortunately. Of note, this erosion had been previously documented in the last 2 turnarounds, 2008 and 2013. Ultimately, they provided 16 recommendations, not only for the refinery and its ownership, but the American Petroleum Institute, OSHA, and the EPA. This was pretty widespread and industry affecting. Now, to summarize the multitude of system safety issues at play here. Firstly, a lack of maintenance shutdown safeguards. For one, there was no steam barrier in the FCC unit, which would have prevented air from mixing with the flammable hydrocarbons. Additionally, operators failed to purge air from the main column. Now, if you hadn't watched the clip, this hopefully will give you a little better idea of the various mechanisms and the airflow within the unit. Now, given that the aforementioned was lacking, there was still a chance that staff could have adequately investigated or responded to pre-incident events, but unfortunately that was seemingly not the case either. It was noted in investigation that 2 booms were heard, the second even with a visible flare. Stack flow changes detected by their continuous emission monitoring equipment when unheated, and it was the board operator's first turnaround. He did not monitor the slide valve pressure level either. Even furthermore, it's just a multitude of factors here. I think these things are really damning. It shows their just absolute failure to take interim steps to mitigate risks and address potential hazards. For instance, no documented inspections of repairs nor any evidence of preventative maintenance work since 2008 on. The vessels that exploded, the absorbers, their shells were made of questionable steels. And the operator logs in weeks prior even noted valve malfunction. This shut down a pollution control device on 2 days prior. And additionally, adding to this, the operating procedure for the FCC shutdown was rewritten day before the explosion happened, and so the operators were operating with limited training. Now, onto the impacts. Human-wise, it could have been so much worse than it was. No fatalities, but 36 workers did seek medical attention, thankfully for mostly minor injuries. And nearby residents were affected as well. This was due to fear of a hydrofluoric acid leak, due to the fact that exposure can cause pretty serious burns and lung damage and potentially be fatal. I did note that there were, I believe, 2 civil suits filed by contract workers, as well as a citizen class action lawsuit, although I'm unsure of the results of those. Naturally, there was a significant business impact that involved rebuilding, which we'll get to in a following slide. So you can see here there were some OSHA fines and settlement amounts. Now, interventions, solutions, recommendations, etc., improving this system safety. There's a lot to be taken from the CSB report all along the hierarchy of controls. These are some of the top 3. Introduce safeguards to prevent explosions in the FCC unit. Implement a program to ensure the slide valve's mechanical integrity. And create a training program for the FCC unit. Adding to that is my personal recommendation. I wish that in the realm of elimination/substitution, the company could commit to removing hydrogen fluoride from the refining process altogether, given the risk it poses. My understanding is that a lot of refineries do not use it any longer. The refinery today, what's actually happened, what's happening? It's under new ownership, also Canadian. The rebuild tripled in cost from projections, saw some COVID-19 delays naturally, but that's expected to be covered entirely by insurance. And they anticipate resuming full operations in a month or so here with increased number of employees, about 350. As they tell it, they've done a lot. All OSHA abatement, working with local officials. So, the multitude of system safety measures they've put in place. State-of-the-art slide valves, advanced instrumentation to monitor FCC unit operations, even a new control system to overall enhance shutdown safety. That's great. As well as improved training materials, simulators even, and some other upgrades. I've provided my references here, and I thank you for watching.